everybody and welcome back. It's been some days since I uploaded another video, even though I said that I'll upload a video every day. It's because I've been busy. My father actually asked me to file an official complaint against MDU, Maharshi Dayanand University. So I've been busy preparing that, and there's been a lot going on recently. So that's why I couldn't make a video earlier. But now let's start with another new subject, which is political science. This is again from class 6, and we'll be covering actually two chapters in this, since the first chapter doesn't have much to do. So we'll just take two chapters directly in here. So first is understanding diversity. Now, before going on with understanding diversity, let us first know what diversity actually is. Diversity is nothing but in Hindi it means bhinnata. Right? In English, you can explain it as different kinds of things or beings. Diversity just simply means different kinds of things or beings or just things, maybe. Uh, you know, grouped together. So that's what diversity. Otherwise, you could just name them differently because every different thing has a name. So if we're talking about diversity, we actually mean that they're grouped together. Right? Different kinds of things are grouped into one or grouped, like taken together. So that's what diversity is. So we'll try to understand what diversity in the human sense means through this chapter, like what human diversity is more precisely. Three children around your age have drawn the figures above. Use the empty box to draw your human figure. Actually, we'll just skip this, okay? We'll just start with this, making friends. Do you think it would be easy for you to make friends with someone who was very different from you? Read the following story and think about this. Now, these things which might seem useless, boring, or children's stuff is actually very, very important. Since all of you know that UPSC has an ethics paper, and these are the things that develop your ethical mindset. And this will eventually help you clear that examination and mold you in such a way that you get the required personality for a UPSC aspirant. It will try to change your personality, shape it into the desired personality which a UPSC aspirant should have. So it is very necessary that you read all of this with rapt attention, with complete focus, complete attention, and try to feel it. Okay, try to feel the emotions that the writer had while writing all this text. I had meant it as a joke made up for a small, ragged boy who sold newspapers at the Janpat crossing at the busy intersection. Every time I cycled past, he would run after me, holding out the English paper and screaming out the evening's headline in a mixture of Hindi and English words. This time, I stopped by the pavement and asked for the Hindi paper. His mouth fell open. You mean you know Hindi? He asked. Of course, I said as I paid for the paper. Why? What did you think? He posed. But you look so Angrej, he said. You mean you can even read Hindi? Of course I can, I said, this time a little impatiently. I can speak, read, and write Hindi. Hindi is one of the subjects I study in school. Subjects? He asked. How could I explain what a subject was to someone who had never been to school? Well, it is something, I began. But the lights changed and the honking behind grew 100-fold, and I let myself be pushed along with the rest of the traffic. Now imagine yourself in such a situation, either of the scenarios. Let yourself first imagine yourself as the bicyclist, and then imagine yourself as a newspaper vendor, a newspaper seller. So, what would your reactions would be? What kind of things would you feel? I mean, you'll probably more likely imagine yourself as the bicycle rider. Yeah, this is a bicycle rider, because you have no experience of being a newspaper vendor, and the newspaper vendor's part has mostly been already done. And this story is from the side of the bicycle. So just imagine yourself in his situation, and then think about how you would react to such a person's words, to such statements in fact. Like, would you be able to explain to him what a subject is? The next day he was there again, smiling at me and holding out a Hindi paper. भैया, he said, आपका अखबार. अब बताइए ये subject क्या चीज है? The English word sounded strange on his tongue. It sounded like its other meaning in English, to be ruled by someone else. So subject has obviously two meanings. First is the even I can't explain what subject is. So subject is a kind of topic that we study, a kind of major topic, you can say, because it includes very different kinds of subtopics as well. So it is a major or bigger kind of topic that you study in school or that you simply study, and what was the word? A subject. Yeah, thus other meaning of subject is to that you are subjected to this, that you have to do this, or his subjects, like a king has subjects, so he has the people whom he rules. So this is the second meaning of subject. Oh, it's just something to study, I said. And then, because the red light had come on, I asked him, have you ever been to school? Never, he answered. And he added proudly, I began working when I was so high. He measured himself against my cycle seat. First, my mother used to come with me, but I can do it all alone. Where is your mother now? I asked, but the lights changed and I was off. I heard him yell from somewhere behind me. She's in Meerut with. The rest was drowned out. My name is Samir, he said the next day, and very shyly he asked, what's yours? It was incredible. My bicycle wobbled. My name is Samir too, I said. What? His eyes lit up. Yes, I grinned at him. It's another name for Hanuman's father. So you are Samir Ek and I'm Samir Do, he said triumphantly. Something like that, I answered, and then I held out my hand. Haath milao, Samir Do. His hand nestled in mine like a little bird. I could still feel its warmth as I cycled away. The next day he did not have his usual smile for me. There is trouble in Meerut, he said. Many people are being killed there in the riots. I looked at the headlines. Communal riots, it blazed. But Samir, I began. I'm a Muslim, Samir, he said in answer. And all my people are in Meerut. His eyes filled with tears, and when I touched his shoulders, he would not look up. He was not at the crossing the day after, sorry. Neither the day after nor ever again, and no newspaper in English or Hindi can tell me where my Samir Do has gone. So imagine if something like this had happened with you, what kind of situation would you be in? You'll feel sad and depressed as well, like you made a new friend and the friend needed your help, like he was in such a desperate situation, and you were actually helpless. You felt very helpless that you couldn't do anything to help your new friend who was in such a distress. So you'd probably feel depressed and dejected and sad and all those kinds of mixed emotions, right? And it wouldn't matter, if the other person was a Muslim, if he was a Hindu, if he was a Sikh, if he was a Chamar or something else, a Brahmin, a Kshatriya, or any other caste as well. If you made friends with him, if your chemistry connected, if you felt for him, then you'll probably feel bad and depressed and dejected, right? If he's in trouble. So this is what the story is trying to convey here, that we, at after all, are human beings. Okay, we are not divided by caste, we are not divided by religion, we are only divided by mentalities. While Samir Ek is more familiar with English, Samir Do speaks Hindi. Although they both are at home in different languages, they still communicated with each other. Being at home means being comfortable. So it basically means, although they are both comfortable in different languages, they still communicated with each other. They made the effort to do so because this was what was important for them. So the main thing is, what is important for you? Is the other person's caste, is his skin color, or is his language more important to you, or his feelings and emotions, his mentality more important to you? This is actually a really deep message. Samir Ek and Samir Do also come from different religious and cultural backgrounds. While Samir Ek is a Hindu, Samir Do is a Muslim. Different religious and cultural backgrounds such as these are an aspect of diversity. So these form diversity, okay? Different cultural aspects, different religious aspects, different ethnic aspects. These are what form human diversity. So human diversity is basically including of all the factors that divide human beings. It could include their mentality, it could include their caste, it could include their skin color, it can include their height, their body shape, and all those kinds of things. So basically everything, because every human being is different from the other human being. But some of these diversities, some of these diverse qualities are good, while some other are bad. So like different heights, different skin colors, and different facial shapes is definitely a good diverse factor, because if everybody looked this exact same, then the life would become really boring, right? There would be no attraction between people either. So this is a good aspect of diversity. However, the bad aspect is like being diverse on caste, being diverse on skin color, being diverse on like something else like rich, poor, uh, handsome, ugly. These are the negative aspects of diversity. In addition to their diverse religious and cultural backgrounds, there are other ways in which Samir Ek and Samir Do are different from each other. For example, while Samir Ek goes to school, Samir Do sells newspapers. Okay, Samir, though, did not have the opportunity to attend school. Perhaps you've noticed that there are several people in the area where you live who are poor and who don't have enough to eat or wear, and sometimes not even a place to live. So I'll tell you a real story. A few days, it's not a story; it's just an incident. So a few days ago, I went to the barber for a haircut, and I sat there, and a cute little boy, he looked somewhere around 8 or 9 years old. He came there and sat down. So after some while, we exchanged friendly face smiles, and after a while, I started to try to communicate with him, and he told me that he's actually 13. Now imagine, he looked 8 or 9 years old at most. His hands were so thin and so small. His whole body was so little. Like he wouldn't even he'd come a little above my waist. So he was very very little, and his hands were so frail and so weak looking, and so was his face. So all in all, like I said, he looked like an 8 or 9 year old. And to my shock, he told me that he was 13. I didn't believe it. I said that, come on, man, don't try to joke with me. Just tell me your real age. And he tried to assure me again and again that he really was 13. But obviously, I didn't believe it. Then I asked him if he goes to school, and he became silent. He tried to evade that question. He wouldn't answer me. So I realized that something was wrong. And I stressed it a little bit more and told me that it doesn't go to school. So I asked him the reason for not going to school, and he eventually told me that there are many people in his house who earn, so there's no need to go to school. But I immediately knew that something was different. The boy from no angle looked to be super rich, that he had no need to go to school, and in fact, rich or poor. I mean, more likely rich people are more likely to send their children to school, right? There would hardly be any rich guy who wouldn't send their children to school or give them any kind of education. I asked him if he was home educated, but he didn't even know if such a thing existed. So it was obvious that he was very poor, and he was just, trying to avoid my question by lying that all his parents and family members earned money, so he didn't need to go to school. Later on, I found out when he was trying to sit on that chair of the barber shop that he was wearing slippers, and in fact, one of his slipper was slightly torn as well. So obviously, such a rich guy wouldn't have such slippers. And I immediately knew that maybe his family was so poor that they could not afford to or did not want to as well send him to school. Maybe they forced him to go outside, work and earn. And at that time, I felt so helpless. That kid, his face is still in front of my eyes. It looked so cute and so little and helpless as well. And I felt like I just couldn't do anything. I had no power, I had no money, I had nothing that could change it. I could give him a false assurance that do this, I will help you, I'll give you this, and but apart from giving him maybe a little bit of money, I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't do anything that could have an impact on his life, that would change his life, right? So that's why I decided that maybe if I started thinking that if I were some powerful person, some rich person, or some district collector or something like that, really in a great powerful position, maybe I could change this person's life. Maybe I can't change everyone's life, but maybe I could change one person's life, right? So that determined me to work a bit more harder to achieve my goal, so I can change the lives of such people and not feel that kind of helplessness again. But sadly, most people, when they become successful, they just forget about all the others. They just forget about all those people who need their help, and they just focus on growing themselves. They become greedy and they want to become more rich and more powerful and more successful. And they forget that maybe they can share a bit of their success, maybe they can share a bit of their wealth, maybe they can share a bit of their knowledge with others and help them grow as well. But sadly, that is not the case. The reason why I told you this story is because I want you to remember it, and I want you to work hard so that you do not have to feel that same helplessness that I did. Samir, though, did not have the opportunity to attend school. Perhaps you've noticed that there are several people in the area where you live who are poor and who don't have enough to eat or wear, and sometimes not even a place to live. This difference is not the same as the one we have seen earlier. Here we're talking not of difference but of inequality. Okay, now this is not different, this is kind of inequality, like people are not on the equal standard. Okay, like the diversity can be that let's say that there's a colony or there's a society where the where every person earns the exact same amount or something around, let's say 1 lakh rupees per month. Everybody earns near about this amount, or their household income amounts to near about 1 lakh. So this society would be diverse but equal and diverse. Okay, because everybody has almost the same amount of money, but they all have different kinds of shape, facial expressions, facial shapes. They all have different heights. They all have different mentalities. They all have different skin colors, and they all drive different kinds of cars. But basically, they are equal. So this is equality but diversity. But imagine another society where there is a section which is very poor, and there lives another section which is very rich, and then another section which is kind of middle class, not belonging to any or either of the categories. So this is a case where there is huge inequality and diversity. So inequality and diversity is wrong. Equality and diversity is the ideal state. Okay, diversity is not good. I mean, not bad. I'm not saying that diversity is bad, but inequality and diversity is a bad combination. Equality and diversity is a good combination. The caste system is another example of inequality. Okay, now you need to understand this very careful. Caste system is not diversity, it is inequality, because caste system is completely man-made. It has nothing to do with any kind of biological phenomena. Okay, there's nothing like, it wasn't like you were born a chamar or a brahmin or a kshatriya or a rajput or anything like that. You weren't born, you were told, it was reinforced into your brain by saying, because your parents told you again and again and again that, bro, that son, you are a rajput, you should be like this. Son, you are a brahmin, you should behave like this. You are a chamar, you will have to face so many inequalities in life. You will have to suffer so much. And man itself enforced this kind of completely artificial classification onto himself. If we start saying that this is a Chamar lion and this is a Rajput lion, this is a Brahmin lion, or this is a Brahmin elephant and that fox is Chamar, and these kinds of things, how funny would it be? How illogical it would be, right? But we can say the same things to humans, and then it doesn't sound illogical to us. Why is that? Because it has been reinforced for centuries and centuries. So one thing, when it is repeated again and again and again, it becomes, you become habitual to it. It becomes a part of your routine. It becomes part of your life, and you start to accept it. So one thing you need to do, that you need to start rejecting it. You do not accept this kind of artificial classification. Be it the higher caste or the lower caste. This is my appeal to both of you, and this is not an appeal. This is a direct instruction. If you want to grow as a human being, if you want to become more successful, if you want to broaden your mind and horizons, then this is just, these are just clear directions. You need to get rid of everything. You need to get rid of yourself completely, and you need to embrace what is inside you, what you are. You are not this body, you are not this mind, and you are certainly not this person who belongs to a particular caste, who belongs to a particular religion as well, or maybe who belongs to a particular gender. You can be any gender that you want to. Okay, but if it really comes from inside you, or maybe, my best advice would be that become no gender. Don't attach yourself to one gender, that no, I am a man and I will never do something girly like this, or I am a girl and I will never do something manly like this, or I'm a trans and I'm supposed to act like this. No, you can act, you can behave, you can do whatever the hell you want, whatever the hell that you really want to do. You're not bound by anything. Don't put restrictions on yourself by yourself. I mean, there are a lot of restrictions. There are lawful restrictions on you, but don't create at least some such artificial, absurd restrictions and then just bind yourself into them and clip your own wings yourself. If you want to high, you'll just have to release those wings and you'll just have to go and fly. It's not like you tie a rope around your wings and then expect to fly, right? So you do not belong to any caste. This is completely artificial. You have been, forcefully made to believe that you belong to a particular caste. When, like in PK, they said that where is the stamp of the religion? So where is the stamp of the caste? It's only on the documents. Imagine that all your documents were burned and everything was erased. Then how would anyone know which caste you belong to? Would you go around telling everyone, hey, bro, I am Rajput. Hey, I'm Brahmin. And just people would either have to believe you, or they'll have to see your documents, but you have no documents, and you do not have any biological mark that says either that, man, this is a Brahmin because he has 3 legs, or maybe because he has uh, because he has 4 hands, so he must be a Brahmin. There is nothing like that, right? So caste system is basically completely illogical and absurd. And I'm not just only talking about caste system, I'm also talking about religion. You can follow multiple religion as well, you can follow no religion at all, and you can be an atheist as well. There's no such boundary, okay? There's no physical, as long as there is no physical boundary, then there should be no mental boundary as well, unless it is ethical. Unless it is ethical and moral and ethical boundaries should definitely be there. But other from that, you don't need to bind yourself into anything, you don't need to restrict yourself to anything. According to this, society was divided into different groups depending upon the work that people did, and they were supposed to remain in those groups. Now, up until to the point that according to this, society was divided into different groups depending upon the work that people did. Up to this point, it is all fine, all right. But the next line, they were supposed to remain in those groups. This is completely, this is kind of, you can say that this is unfair. This is, like unfair division among people, a forced division. The fact that they were forced, or they were supposed to remain in those groups is completely wrong, is completely, is completely forced. I mean, that you choose to become a doctor, let's say that you choose to become a doctor, but you want, that you've seen that doctors don't get treated really good, or maybe doctors have to face a lot of difficulties and something or something that, and you want that your son becomes an engineer, that way life would be good, you would be able to send him somewhere out, or maybe you want him to be a civil servant. So you should not be forced. The government cannot force you that, no, no, if you are a doctor, then your son will have to be a doctor as well. Your daughter can only also become a doctor as well, and you cannot choose any other profession. That would be wrong, right? That would be kind of dictatorship, right? So this is what our ancestors did. There was a group of bad people who forced everyone to remain in their jobs because they had the upper hand at that time. They had better jobs. They had more leisurely jobs. So they wanted to maintain this monopoly. So they forced other people that, no, no, whatever jobs you are doing, you will have to keep on doing it. So it was good for some people, but unfair to all the people. All right. But now we are more smarter, we are more intelligent, we are more, rational, civilized. So we need to strip off such a system. Now, of course, this job system is not with us, but the caste system still remains. It remains a big part of our mentality. So if your parents were potters, you could only become a potter, nothing else. Now imagine all the families becoming doctors and doctors and doctors. Let's say you were a doctor, your son would be a doctor, his son would be a doctor, and then his son would be a doctor, and your family is just fed up of being a doctor all the time. And you wanted to switch to some other profession. Maybe you want to be a civil servant. Maybe you want to be an engineer. Maybe you want to be, a businessman. Maybe your son doesn't want to become a doctor or civil servant or anything. Maybe he wants to start up a business. Maybe he wants to be like Ambani, Adani, or Mr. Ratan Tata sir, something like that. Okay, but he will earn. But imagine he's being forced to be a doctor by someone external, by from someone outside. Let's say that someone from the neighboring family comes to you and say that, no, 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 your son cannot become a doctor. He will have to be sorry, your son cannot become a businessman. He will have to be a doctor. So what would you think? You'd think, man, is this guy crazy? Why is he instructing me and my family what I should do or what I shouldn't do? Right? But this absurdity was actually going on in at that time. This system was considered irreversible, and because you were not supposed to change your profession, it was not considered necessary for you to know anything more than what you needed in your profession. So you see like how bad this system actually was. Like you know a profession, and you know that you will have to choose this particular profession in the future as well, right? And your children would and their children would have to choose the same profession. So what would you do? You wouldn't even learn about anything else. You know that every other knowledge is just useless. You just start teaching your son from the very start medical sciences and physics and chemistry. You wouldn't even care about what English, what Hindi, what cultural studies, what ethics, what social science. Rubbish. All of that is complete rubbish. If we won't even ever have to deal with any of that. So why would I waste my time? You would start teaching your children from the very start how to become a doctor, right? You would start giving them the very necessary information. So there would be no all-round development for him. There would be development in a particular manner. He would become more like a machine rather than a human being. And this is what was happening to us. This was why this system was so evil. And this is why there was so much inequality. This created a situation of inequality. Let's say that there is a doctor and then his son is also a doctor, but they are not doing very well financially. Okay, maybe they are not really good doctors. Maybe his son wasn't really interested in doctor, but due to this system he was forced to become a doctor, and that's why he couldn't do well, and he just got set up a small private clinic, and he isn't earning much. So maybe his son is born, and then he sees that his family is poor and they're not able to do well, so he wants to earn money. He wants to earn more money. He wants to be a businessman. Okay, or he wants maybe some high paying job, but because of this restriction he wouldn't be able to do any high paying job. He wouldn't be able to do any business that could earn him lots of money and improve his family condition, right? So his family would always remain poor, or mostly would always. It's a high probability that his family would remain poor in the future as well, and so would be the case with other families as well. Let's say that there is an agricultural family and now they want some intellectual in their family, who can introduce them to the new reforms, the new subsidies the government is providing, or they like handle all these kinds of matters. So they want some intellectual being in their family, but due to these restrictions they are forced to become a farmer, so they will remain illiterate all their life. So this was the case. This was why inequalities initially started. You go, okay, this is, you can say, how the concept of inequality actually started in our country. It's like the idiom hitting your own leg with an axe. So it's basically the same thing, that you cut your own leg with your axe. X here means AXEX. What does diversity add to our lives? Just like Samir Ek and Samir Do became friends, you might have friends who are very different from you. You have probably eaten different kinds of food in their homes, celebrated different festivals with them, tried out the clothes they wear, and learned some of their languages as well. Okay, now this is pretty obvious, right? You probably like reading and hearing stories and adventures about different animals, people, and even ghosts. Perhaps you even enjoy making up stories yourself. I did when I was small. Many young people feel happy when they read a good story because it gives them lots of ideas to make up more stories. People who write stories get their ideas from all sorts of different places, from books and real life and from their imagination. Okay, now imagine that if everybody did this whole same profession and there was no change of profession, and a writer's son became writer and again a writer. But so if he became a writer, he would, his writing should kind of become boring. He would write about almost the same kind of things that his father wrote about, that his great grandfather wrote about, that his great grandfather wrote about. So things would become pretty boring if such a system still prevailed in our country. There wouldn't be so much diversification. You wouldn't be able to read different points of view and from different kinds of writers. Some may have lived in forests close to animals and chosen to write of their fights and friendships. Other read role. Okay, so you can just skip this part here. And then diversity in India. India is a country of many diversities. We speak different languages, have various types of food, celebrate different festivals, practice different religions. But actually, if you think about it, we do many things that are similar, except we do them in different ways. How do we explain diversity? A little more than 200 years ago, or long before the train, aeroplane, bus, or car became part of our lives, people traveled from one part of the world to another in ships, on horses, on camels, or on foot. Often they went in search of new lands or new places to settle in or for people to trade with, and because it took so long to travel, once they got to a place, people stayed there, often for a long time. Many others left their homes because there were famines and drought, and they could not get enough to eat. Some went in search of work while others left because there was a war. So this is why the world is so diverse. Okay, because mostly people like to live around people with similar mentalities, similar tastes, similar lifestyle, right? But still, the world is so highly diverse. Why? Because people have to move. People need to move in order to survive. Sometimes, as they began to make their homes in new places, people began to change a little, and at other times, they managed to do things in the old ways. Okay, so now when you're living around someone, that person will have an influence on you, and you in turn would influence him as well. So that's why there was a lot of exchange between different kinds of cultures, and then there was uh, an emergence of new kind of mixed cultures. A new kind of culture which had both of those previous cultures. So their language, food, music, religions became a mix of the old and the new. Like dosa and idli and sambar. This is a southern dish, like South Indian dish, right? But in North India also so many restaurants, almost like every restaurant makes dosa and sambar, and many households eat dosa and sambar with relish, right? So this is the kind of an example of how these diverse cultures came to uh, come by each other, and this is how this diversity developed. Like there can be many other examples as well. Like globalization is a concept that is not so very different from diversification. Due to this diversification, globalization took place eventually. Like people wear dhotis in the south, but some people sometimes wear dhotis in North India as well. You know, when they are at their home to feel relaxed. And then this concept of slippers came from the west or maybe somewhere from outside. I don't really know, but still, you get the idea. Religions became a mix of the old and the new, and out of this intermixing of cultures came something new and different. The history of many places shows us how many different cultural influences have helped to shape life and culture there. Thus, regions became very diverse because of their unique histories. Similarly, diversity also comes about when people adapt their lives to the geographical area in which they live. For example, living near the sea is quite different from living in a mountainous area. Okay, so in our huge country, some people live near the mountains, some live near the lakes, some live near the deserts. Okay, so they have to develop accordingly to, according to the climatic conditions that they live in. They will have to develop according to that. So that's why again diversification was so high everywhere. Not only do people have different clothing and eating habits, but even the kinds of work they do are different. In cities, it is often easy to forget how closely people's lives are tied to their physical surroundings. This is because in the city, people seldom grow their own vegetables and grain. Instead, they depend on the market to buy all the food and other goods that they need. Let us try to understand what we mean when we say that historical and geographical factors influence the diversity of a region. We can do this by reading about life in two different parts of the country, Kerala and Ladakh. Now, from here on, we will start our notes. Although this is not really important, you know, the concept about Ladakh and Kerala, but this can come in your UPSC, you know, it's kind of general knowledge. So we will write whatever information we can gain from Ladakh. So I will then go into, you know, details here, and I will just read you right from the notes as to what you will have to write for Ladakh and what you will have to write for Kerala. So just create a heading and write Ladakh, okay, in black, or maybe you should just create a heading so that you know that this is a heading, and then make note for this heading. Desert in the mountains east of Jammu and Kashmir. Yeah, write this down. Desert in the mountains east of Jammu and Kashmir. Then comma, minimal agriculture. Minimal agriculture, comma, goats here produce pashmina wool. Goats here produce pashmina wool. You can, you know, I've taken these notes from this section itself, so you can read it yourself and create your own notes as well if you want to. And if you don't want to, you can just write down these notes that I'm dictating to you right now. So we're writing it in a way that you remember, you recall whenever you read these notes. We're not writing it in a detailed manner. We're just writing it down in short forms. So again, comma, used to be a passage to Tibet. Used to be a passage to Tibet. Comma, caravans used to pass with textiles and spices. Caravans used to pass with textiles and spices, raw silk and carpets. It's within the same, okay. With textiles and spices, raw silk and carpets. Comma again now. Comma. Buddhism reached Tibet via Ladakh. Buddhism reached Tibet via Ladakh. Via here means via, which means through Ladakh. Comma, also called Little Tibet. So Ladakh is also known as Little Tibet. Now this is important. Comma, Islam introduced more than 400 years ago. So Islam was introduced in Ladakh more than 400 years ago. So this is all for Ladakh. Now moving on to Kerala. Moving on to Kerala. So write another heading, Kerala, and then put a hyphen or something like that, and then type, and or then write its notes. Surrounded by sea on one side and hills on the other. surrounded by sea on one side and hills on the other, comma, spice garden of India. Yeah, Kerala is known as the spice garden of India. Recently, when I went to Punjab University to give my examination for IES coaching, there was this question: what is known as the what is known as the spice garden of India? There was this question. So at that time, I actually put Gujarat on there because I thought that maybe Gujarat produced a lot of kind of spices, and it was near to the sea, and it also, had deserts as well. Or does it? I mean, I actually wasn't that encouraged that it has deserts and it's near the sea as well. So maybe like Gujarat could produce different kind of spices. So at that time, I put Gujarat there, which was wrong. Although I admit I did get selected in it, but this question was wrong. I probably got, there were 50 questions, so I got around 47 right. This and three more questions were wrong. So, known as the Spice Garden of India. Then, comma, Apostle of Christ, Saint Thomas. Yes, Apostle of Christ, Saint Thomas, St. Saint Thomas. Here, I'm taking it from here. This, the Apostle of Christ. Here, the Apostle of Christ, Saint Thomas, credited with introducing Christianity to India, credited with introducing Christianity to India, came here 2000 years ago. Came here. So what is apostle? Apostle is actually one of the, apostle actually has two different meanings. Okay, there's not a single apostle. Apostle has two meanings. Which one of them is a vigorous, a strong or very enthusiastic advocate or supporter of a particular policy, idea, or cause. Someone who believes and spreads a particular policy idea with very strong determination, with strong enthusiasm. That is an apostle, and the second apostle is actually a historical figure, and each of the 12 chief disciples of Jesus Christ. So it is said that Jesus Christ had 12 main disciples, and one of those disciples is Saint Thomas, and those disciples were called apostles of Christ. And one of those apostles or those chief disciples was Saint Thomas. Then put another comma. Portuguese discovered sea route to India from Europe when Vasco da Gama landed with his ship here. I repeat, Portuguese discovered sea route to India from Europe when Vasco da Gama landed with his ship here. Just need to quickly check something out. Yeah, it's closed. Okay, again, comma, fertile land and climate. Fertile land and climate. Comma, suitable for growing rice. Suitable for growing rice. Comma, boat race and Onam festival celebrated. Boat race and Onam festival celebrated. So by this you should know that Onam is originally a festival of Kerala, and on Onam they hold boat races. Okay, so you don't need to read this section. Unity in diversity. We'll start with here. India's diversity has always been recognized as a source of its strength. When the British ruled India, women and men from different cultural, religious, and regional backgrounds came together to oppose them. India's freedom movement had thousands of people of different backgrounds in it. They worked together to decide joint actions, they went to jail together, and they found different ways to oppose the British. Interestingly, the British thought they could divide Indians because they were so different and then continue to rule them. But the people showed how they could be different and yet be united in their battle against the British. So you can see that when people have a common cause, they usually shed off these differences and become united. They become one. And so we too should have a common cause, should we not? I mean, everybody wants to be successful, but should we not have a bigger cause, a more grand, a more noble cause? Should we not have causes like not me, but everyone should be successful? Everyone should be happy, not just me, but everyone should be happy, not just me, but everyone should have a faithful partner, and not just me, but everyone should have a healthy body and a healthy mind. So instead of being selfish, we can become a little more, a little more or a little more philanthropist, or maybe a little more morally good. I can't pinpoint that exact word, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. So if we strive for everyone's happiness, if we strive for everyone's success, then that would naturally include ourselves as well, right? Wouldn't it? I mean, we come in everyone, right? So if we say that everyone should become happy, so we would also be happy because we are also part of everyone. So this is how we should have a common cause, and a common cause that benefits everyone, not just yourself, but that benefits everyone. And this way we will be able to shed our differences. Now this song, this is a really patriotic and really good song. It's very moving. So I read it, and I wouldn't read it here because I might not give the same vibe, but you should definitely read this song. This song was sung after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Amritsar, in which a British general opened fire on a large group of unarmed, peaceful people, killing many and wounding even more. Men and women, Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims, rich and poor, had gathered to protest against the British. I mean, isn't it the case? Like the case of the three students dying in, where was it? Old Rajinder Nagar, in that IS coaching center. So they might have been from different castes. They might have been from different areas of India. Like one of them was from South India, from somewhere like Tamil Nadu. But when we heard of such a tragedy, we didn't care to ask what was their caste, what was the color of their skin, and which part of India were they from, what was their religion. We didn't care to ask who the heck hell they were. We felt a kind of solidarity, a kind of connection with them. We felt that it was a huge tragedy and they must get justice and we must fight from them. The hundreds and thousands of students who are out on the streets who are protesting against this, they do not say that I am only protesting for this particular person because it belongs to my caste, or maybe I'm only on the side of this particular, I'm only seeking justice for this particular girl because she belongs to my religion. No, no, no. We are seeking justice for human beings. We are not seeking justice for any caste. We are not seeking justice for any religion. We are seeking justice for a human being, someone who was like us, someone who was like me, someone who was like you, and someone who died unfairly, whose death was unjustified. So when these people died in Jallianwala Bagh, the whole country was in uproar because they felt this connection with another human being. They felt the connection of a human to human. They did not feel the connection of any caste, any religion, or any kind of ethnicity. They did not feel that they should support only their caste. They felt that they should support them as a human being, because what happened with them can happen with what happened to those people can happen with themselves as well. Like this tragedy can happen with them as well. And then where would they go to if they do not support these people? This thing can happen with their children as well. Or even if it doesn't, as a human being, it comes from out of our hearts. That connection, that feeling, it comes from out of our heart. Even if we you know if we even if we don't connect with those people, we still feel aggrieved, we still feel sad. So men and women, I repeat again, like men and women, people who really uh, should pride themselves in calling men, and females who should really pride themselves in calling women, who are real men and women, those. And then Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims. This is just written here to tell you how diverse groups came together, how people did not care about the religion or the caste and all that. Rich and poor had gathered to protest against the British. This song was composed and sung to honor the memory of those brave people. Songs and symbols that emerged during the freedom struggle serve as a constant reminder of our country's rich tradition of respect for diversity. You see, like the concept of freedom itself. Freedom was not gained by Hindus, freedom was not gained by Muslims, freedom was not gained by Brahmins, nor was it gained by Rajputs or Chamars or Mahars or Dalits. It wasn't gained by any particular section of people, it was gained by the citizens, it was gained by the people of India. And that is why the constitution has we the people of India, and not we the Muslims of India or we the Hindus of India. It says we the people of India because we fought as a group, we fought as people. We did not fought as Hindus, or we did not fought as Sikhs, or we did not fought as different religious people. We did not fought as protectors of temples or protectors of churches or protectors of masjids. We fought as protectors of a nation. We fought as nation's people, as subjects of a nation, or as just citizens of a nation. We fought for our lands and we fought for ourselves. Do you know the story of the Indian flag? It was used as a symbol of protest against the British by people everywhere. And that is why the Indian flag does not have any religious symbols, because we are not, in the end, we are not religious people. We are all human beings. We are not part of religions. We are part of a bigger, a broader concept. In his book, The Discovery of India, Jawaharlal Nehru says that Indian unity is not something imposed from the outside, but rather it was something deeper, and within its fold, the widest tolerance of belief and custom was practiced, and every variety acknowledged and even encouraged. It was Nehru who coined the phrase unity in diversity to describe the country. Now, this is your another point, another note, right? It was Nehru who coined the phrase unity in diversity to describe the country. Okay, this is important. Write this point as well. So this concludes our first chapter. Now we'll move to our second chapter, but before that, I'll take a little break. Actually, you know what? I think that we should cover the second chapter in the next video itself, because as I can see, this video is already 45 minutes long, and the next video will likely be 45 minutes again. So it would create a really big video, and I like to create a rather shorter videos, so that you don't feel that burden that it is such a big video and so much to be taught. How will I remember everything? It creates a psychological burden on your mind, even if you don't feel it. So later on, it becomes really harmful for you. So that's why I try to keep my videos shorter than 1 hour, or somewhere near about 1 hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. So we will conclude this video in here, and we'll do this chapter 2, diversity and then discrimination. Now, as you can see, there is another concept added. Diversity is already there, but now another concept is added to it, which is discrimination. So we will see how diversity leads to discrimination. So up until the next video, goodbye and take care.